Let's go back to the late 1980s. The Berlin Wall came down, therefore a certain Soviet republic was beginning to collapse. The third consecutive term of a Republican president was already at hand. Star Trek was back on the television screen. Apartheid was beginning its dismantling in South Africa. The Showa era ends, for all you tokusatsu fans out there. The Simpsons aired its very first episode. But most importantly, game companies were competing for top spot, and Nintendo was marketing its Nintendo Entertainment System, or NES, heavily for 4 years from its initial debut. It was all over the news. Commercials of this product were on all the time, and even I, as a wee little cub, took notice of this. The earliest I remember was seeing this at a Radio Shack and asking for it, but being a kid, my mom said, "Not now, it's too much." So a few months go by and Christmas comes along, and I remember it being the earliest one I remember, and being so excited, unwrapping the NES and opening it up. That moment began the very first thing I have been a continual fan of to this very day, beginning my long journey with Super Mario and Nintendo. My dad hooked it up in the TV room on a small 1980 16-inch Panasonic TV. The game that this packaging came with was the original Super Mario Bros. And Duck Hunt, with 2 controllers and a zapper, an orange gun used to shoot things in Duck Hunt and other games. I was in special education preschool as a young child and needed some help learning to play the game, so my mom and dad both learned how to play the Nintendo and showed me how to do it. My experience started off as educational at first, but as I learned to grasp the controls, I was able to surpass my parents and started playing Super Mario Bros. After school and on Saturday mornings all the time. Besides playing the game, Super Mario was also on TV as a live action with a cartoon segment called the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, which would be on every day after school Monday through Thursday, but on Friday they would play the Legend of Zelda cartoon instead, but that's a topic for my upcoming Zelda video. Super Mario Bros. Is the first video game I've ever played, and the NES was the first console I've ever played, but it was not the first game with Mario in it. Let us go back in time 8 years, shall we? Mario started off in an arcade game called Donkey Kong that debuted in arcades all over the world in 1981. Mario was initially known as Jumpman, and instead of being the iconic plumber, he was a carpenter going up top a construction site to save the damsel Pauline from the titular ape. A few years later, he got a green brother named Luigi, and the two of them cleaned up the sewer pipes of monsters from turtles, to lobsters, to flies in the arcade game called Mario Brothers. Nintendo and Shigeru Miyamoto and his R&D team decided to create a new type of side-scrolling game with a bright blue sky and the ability to jump from platform to platform, overcoming obstacles and avoiding or fighting enemies. The project culminated in the hit and probably the most important video game of all time, Super Mario Bros. Back to Super Mario Bros. This little 8-bit game had a bit of a steep learning curve for me. I never played a video game before, therefore I had no frame of reference on pushing the right buttons and muscle memory. Like reading and math, my mother sat down with me and taught me how to play Mario and be able to pay attention to what was going on the screen. I eventually figured it out and surpassed both my parents and was able to complete the game. They got stuck on level 2-3 with running across the bridge, avoiding the flying Cheep Cheeps. To control Mario, you use the D-pad, the one that looks like a cross, to move Mario right or left. Press down to duck, A button to jump, and the B button to do an action. Like if you hold B while holding the right or left button on D-pad, you can make Mario sprint or run in either direction. Mario can walk around and jump, and he can jump into things, punching them up, like breaking bricks or hitting question blocks that act as a floating mystery box. Question blocks will either have coins or power-ups. Power-ups include the mushroom that will make Mario get bigger, turning him into Super Mario, and after that the next power-up is the Fire Flower, where Mario's clothes will change color from red to white, and he will be able to shoot fireballs out of his fingers. You can press the B button to shoot the fireballs. A more rare power-up is the Star, that will grant Mario invincibility, making him unable to get hurt, and can take out enemies by just moving into them. A level is made up of platforms to jump, whether they are floating bricks, question blocks, pipes, giant trees, or block stairs, while avoiding enemies like Goombas, Koopa Troopas, Piranha Plants, Lakitu, Buzzy Beetles, Hammer Brothers, and pits that you can fall down into if you are not careful. There are 4 types of levels in this game: outside overworld, underground underworld, underwater area, and the castle at the end of each world. Until you get to the castle in World 8, the master of the earlier classes are regular enemies disguised as the Big Bad Bowser, with a Toad in captivity. Big Bad Bowser will block your way, jumping and shooting fireballs at you, and in later levels, throw hammers at you like a Hammer Brothers. To beat him, you have to either shoot him with fireballs 5 times, or if you don't have that, you have to get past him and press the switch, collapsing the bridge, dropping him into the lava. Every time you rescue the Toad, he always tells you that the princess is in another castle. You eventually rescue the princess in the final level, 8-4, and she will tell you a new quest will begin. And it does, with all the Goombas replaced with very fast-moving buzzy beetles. The music in this game is composed by Koji Kondo, who would be the sole composer for all the Mario games up to Super Mario 64. And the Super Mario Bros. Theme is probably the most recognized theme in the world that young kids to this very day can recognize, and it gives me goosebumps every time I hear the themes, because the music from the games I play usually stay with me the longest, even more than the gameplay. They just keep replaying in my head as I carry forth my life. This game was so influential that all other game developers copied Nintendo's platforming concept and replicated it onto so many other NES titles and so forth. This is probably the most influential video game of all time, and is probably the reason the video game industry still exists to this day, and more successful than ever, surpassing even the film industry. I remember one time going to the Toys R Us as a young pup and was looking at the video games aisle with the game title flaps and the ticket pouch underneath to take to the front, and the store would bring you the game up front. I think I wanted Zelda 2, but my parents were like, no Link, so I got Super Mario Bros. 2 instead. Super Mario Bros. 2 in the US came out in 1988 and was not even originally a Super Mario game from Nintendo. They took a game called Doki Doki Panic and they changed it into a Mario game by replacing the family member characters with the Mario characters like Mario, Luigi, Toad, and Princess Toadstool, later called Princess Peach. Why? Nintendo of America thought the original Japanese Super Mario Bros. 2 game was too hard and would turn off American consumers during a critical time for the video game industry. So, Mario 2 is a very different game from Super Mario Bros., with a new mechanic that involves you going up to a little plant or bush and press the B button or action button to pick up a vegetable, and you throw the vegetable at the bad guys, taking them out. You can also jump on top of them, press the B button, pick them up, and throw them at other enemies, taking them out too. All the baddies in this game are different. You have Shy Guys, Sniffits, Tweeters, Ninjas, Mauser, Triclyde, Fry Guy, Birdo, and the main villain, Wart. The goal of this game is to get to Wart's floating castle and rescue the subjects of the fairy kingdom of Subcon. The only way to defeat Wart is to catch a vegetable from the vegetable machine and throw it into his mouth right before he exhales several killer bubbles at you. We find out eventually that this whole game was a dream that Mario was having, and I assume he is having the dream in between Super Mario Bros. And the next game in the series. I remember waking up one Easter morning, walking into the front room and finding an Easter basket with the all-new Super Mario Bros. 3. I remember playing the game for the first time, seeing the initial curtain rise up to showcase a brand new Super Mario adventure, and I was blown away by the initial introduction of the world map in Mario, where you can control and pick which level you want to go to, but most of the time you had to go in the set order the game shows. The map consists of numbered black squares representing general levels, and you have the small fortress as a mid-level with a castle setting and fighting Boom Boom at the end of each. Sometimes you run into baddies on the road and have to fight them to move forward and receive a power-up for a prize. Speaking of power-ups, you can obtain and store power-ups and choose which power-ups to incorporate before starting a level. This game has the same power-ups as the first Super Mario Bros. With the Star, Mushroom, and Fire Flower, only to add the Flying Raccoon suit and the Tanuki suit, which allows you to fly and turn into a statue, Frog Mario to swim easily, and Hammer Brothers Mario being able to throw hammers and take out hard enemies. The gameplay and the baddies are the same as the first Super Mario Bros., but the controls are tighter, the levels are longer and more creative, with 8 worlds and from 8 to 14 levels per world, increasing as you progress in the game. The goal of this game is to go to the 7 main worlds and help the kings whose magic scepters were stolen by the Koopalings, Bowser's childlike lieutenants, who I originally thought were his kids, until it was debunked by Mr. Miyamoto himself. This game begins the themed worlds used in later games, like Grassland, Desertland, Waterland, Giantland, Skyland, Iceland, and Pipeland. You chase the Koopalings in each world to their doom ships or airships they use to terrorize the Mushroom Kingdom. Now that I think of it, I think I thought they were Bowser's kids was because at the same time the game was out, NBC on Saturday mornings broadcasted the cartoon Super Mario Bros. 3, with Captain N the Game Master, and that show established that the Koopa Kids were in fact Bowser's kids. After the Koopalings are defeated, Bowser sends you a letter stating that he kidnaps the princess again while you are fooling around. When will it stop? World 8, or Darkland, is a challenge, with mostly horizontal auto-scrolling stages and the final castle. The final castle is tricky, but fun with a few paths. You get to Bowser at last, and if you don't have a Fire Flower power-up, you need to dodge his jump attacks. When he lands on the red bricks, he breaks them, so you need to have him repeat it until he falls straight through the floor, defeated. Mario rescues the princess, again, and they save the Mushroom Kingdom. This was the last Mario game for the NES, and the last numbered Mario game in the series, but there was room to take it to the next level. The 16-bit era was already among us when Mario 3 came out in the US in 1990. The Sega Mega Drive, or as it was known in the US, the Genesis, was already out, and shortly thereafter a new mascot who happens to be based on Felix the Cat's head and Mickey Mouse's body, named Sonic, who helped Sega do what Nintendo don't. Nintendo had its work cut out for them, and after a few years after Mario 3 came out in Japan, Nintendo announces and releases the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, or the SNES, for the latter half of 1990 in Japan and 1991 for the US. 2 launch titles were announced: F-Zero, a futuristic racing game, and the 4th Super Mario Bros. Game titled Super Mario World. Another Christmas came in 1991 and was one of the best ever, with getting the Super Nintendo system with Super Mario World, my 4th Mario game. I remember the commercials, and like every other kid that year, I asked for one and was happy to receive it to play during the holidays. This game was basically Super Mario 3, but dialed to 10. The setting this time is in Dinosaur Land, where Mario, Luigi, and Princess Toadstool decide to take a vacation. But like always, Bowser comes in and nabs her yet again, beginning Mario's next adventure. The world map, instead of being individual frames, was an actual world map with interconnected worlds and shows you how you can enter and exit them. The areas in this game have food in their names like Donut Plains, Vanilla Dome, Cookie Mountain, Soda Lake, Chocolate Island, etc. There are 7 main areas, including Yoshi's Island, Donut Plains, Vanilla Dome, Twin Bridges, Forest of Illusion, Chocolate Island, and the Valley of Bowser. The world has multiple pathways due to some levels having multiple exits, giving you access to secret worlds including the Star Worlds, and if you complete that, you can access the uber hard Special World. The enemies are more or less the same as in Super Mario 3, with the intro of the football players, the giant Banzai Bills, and the return of the Koopalings from Mario 3, but more dangerous than ever, holed up in their area castles. The power-ups were reduced to the standard Star, Mushroom, Fire Flower, but the new feather to turn Mario into Cape Mario, who to this day has the best flying mechanic of any Mario game. You run and take off like in Mario 3, but this time you can dive and then pull the cape back and can continue to do this until you eventually land back on the ground. There is your standard exit when you navigate the level, scrolling from left to right generally. getting to a post and hitting the moving bar, and how high the bar determines how many bonus stars you can get to access a bonus stage. And once you reach 100 bonus stars is when you can access the stage. My favorite aspect of this game is that it introduces the concept of the alternate exit to the level. The levels on the world map that are red indicate to the player that there are 2 exits in the level, and you will need to explore to figure out where that exit is, and that comes in the form of a key going into a keyhole. The main addition to this game that they couldn't do on the NES was the inclusion of a dinosaur named Yoshi. Mario rescues Yoshi and helps him save his friends from Bowser's minions. You can ride Yoshi. He can withstand the more dangerous enemies, eat enemies, and help Mario reach almost impossible platforms at a hefty cost. The music in this game by Koji Kondo is so memorable since it takes a single riff of the main theme and creates multiple variations of that same riff. Also, when you ride Yoshi, the music changes, adding an amazing percussion set. The final fight with Bowser was different. This time, he was in his hovering propelled Koopa clown car, and he would drop Mecha Koopas onto you. You had to stomp on the Mecha Koopas and kick them upward, timing it just right to hit Koopa in the head until he drops the princess and flies away uncontrollably. Defeated. Not only did I play the heck out of this game and all 72 levels on Saturday mornings, but also caught the short Super Mario World cartoon that aired on NBC as a successor to the Super Mario 3 cartoon. This series included cave people in Dinosaur Land and the same cast from Mario 3, but Toad was absent, being replaced with Yoshi as the 4th character. As far as I'm concerned, Super Mario World is the pinnacle of 2D Mario, and I feel when it comes to creativity, the new Super Mario series pales in comparison, even though they themselves are solid games too. A must-own and part of the holy trinity of must-own games for the Super NES. These initial 4 games were instant hits, critically acclaimed, and the best-selling games at the time. However, there was a gap in the schedule for Mario games, since Yoshi's Island wasn't due for some time. So Mr. Miyamoto decided to create a value pack for the first 3 games, but also decided to include the original Japanese Super Mario Bros. 2. Those games were reworked for the Super NES, updating the character sprites, the backgrounds, and were no longer restricted in the colors they could use to design Mario's world. The first 3 games, and the Japanese Mario 2, renamed Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels, was released as a package called Super Mario All-Stars. So now, there was more than one way to experience the original Super Mario games, with an additional Mario as a bonus, a plus for players like myself who didn't live in Japan. Another infamous Mario project that released around the same time as Super Mario All-Stars was the live-action film adaptation of Super Mario Bros., starring Bob Hoskins as Mario and John Leguizamo as Luigi. This film continues the lore that the Mario Brothers were from Brooklyn, New York, and since they are called the Mario Brothers, this movie assumes that their last name must be Mario. They meet a princess named Daisy who happens to be the damsel in the Game Boy Super Mario Land games, a topic for another video. Daisy is in trouble and is captured by Koopa, played by Dennis Hopper. Instead of the Mushroom Kingdom, the movie takes place in Dino Hatton, an upside-down dimension of Manhattan where surviving dinosaurs have lived all this time, and Koopa rules from a high-rise instead of a castle. The movie was trying to be Blade Runner with Mario elements, and as a young kid, was instantly confused by this. I was still entertained at the antics and the fact that they incorporated Kuribo's shoe from Mario 3 into the movie, and was a highlight, but this movie is not Mario, and it bombed in the box office as a result, and hasn't aged well at all to this very day. And a lot of young people aren't even aware of its existence, and perhaps it's for the better. I managed to obtain and play the first 4 Mario games in only 2 years, and that fandom has persisted to this very day, so obviously my Super Mario story does not end here. There will be future videos including one for Super Mario RPG, one discussing Super Mario 64 and the rest of the mainline Super Mario games, the early Mario Kart games, etc. Super Mario is still the largest and most recognizable video game franchise out there, from the mainline games, to the Mario Kart games, to its RPG games, to the Mario Party games, various Mario sports games, the new Super Mario Bros. Games, to the more recent Mario Maker games. Nintendo has truly created a juggernaut franchise that has been with me for multiple generations now and will continue to be going forward. The reason it is such a juggernaut is because of the amount of work and quality they put into each and every one of those games, and most importantly for us nerdporials out there, a consistency throughout the series that has been maintained by Mr. Miyamoto and his guidance of the various R&D teams at Nintendo. And most importantly, because they are fun. Fun for people of all ages. On the next episode of Nerdporial Reflects, I will be covering the first two NES Zelda games. I played these after Mario, and they are the second most nostalgic series I ever played. How long did it take me to beat them? Was the game so cryptic that I couldn't find some dungeons for several years? Do I still follow the Zelda series to this day? All these questions and more will be answered in the Nerdporial Reflects, The Legend of Zelda, and The Adventure of Link. But wait, there's more! There will also be a new episode of Nerdporial Reviews, where I will be reviewing the film Alien. What experience does the outer reaches of space provide? Does the company the Nostromo crew work for have their best interests at heart? In space, will anyone hear you scream? All this and more in the Nerdporial Reviews Alien. My heart is already stirring. Stay safe and stay nerdporial, everyone.